Hey, what's good everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing our budget Master Classic team compositions consisting of Melmetal, up to one legendary Pokemon, and then a Pokemon that you might already have in your storage. So today's featured Pokemon is Rhyperior, and Rhyperior has had a community day in February 2020, and it was also featured in the December throwback community day at the end of the year. So I figured by this time, most people should have access to a Rhyperior. You don't need a hundo for this particular team composition, but you do want it to be level 40. And Rhyperior here serves a very similar role to Melmetal, so being able to take down Togekiss and Dialga potentially to protect our Giratina Origin, and in return, Giratina Origin will protect our backline from Groudon, Kyogre, and potentially enemy Melmetals. So very synergistic team composition, playing it just like an ABB composition, using the Rhyperior to bait out the best Melmetal counter, and which Melmetal can be able to sweep in the end. So in terms of IVs here, I do have a 15-15-15 Rhyperior, but like I said, as long as you have a level 41, it should do just fine. We're not interested in winning any CMPs, but you do want one as close to 100% as possible. And the Melmetal previously a 15-15-14, the best one that I could get. And looking at my Giratina Origin, I do have it bus buddied in this particular scenario because Giratina Origin can also be pretty threatening in the lead, and I do want to win CMP. And the 12 stamina IV here is going to cost me some matchups, but it's not that big of a deal here. It's not going to be a game breaker. Giratina Origin will perform just fine. So let's go ahead and take a look at a set that I did. This was in the 2850s, so still going against some experts and potentially legends in this range as well. Alright, heading into our first battle against Kosuki00, and I'm going to be leading Giratina Origin into a Groudon. So this is fantastic for us because this is where you want to see the Groudon, and I'm going to go ahead and stay in here. Going to farm up to 8 Shadow Claws and throw the Shadow Ball trying to CMP, but I learned a very valuable lesson that Groudon actually wins CMP over Giratina Origin, so I'll be playing this matchup a little bit differently, trying to throw the Shadow Ball before the Groudon gets to the big move before. So here, I can't afford to let my Giratina Origin go down, so I actually do have to shield this up, and I have a good feeling here. If my opponent is staying in with Giratina Origin, that means that there's probably something in the back that's weak to it as well, so going to try to get to the Shadow Ball here before and see what my opponent does. Regardless of the situation here, I think I'm going to shield, and then in the event that my opponent does try to bait on the second shield, I'm probably going to swap out. So I get really courageous here, and I try to bring in my Rhyperior here, expecting the next charge move, but I kind of get scared here, and I'm going to go ahead and shield this up again. So probably not a reason for me to actually bring in the Rhyperior here, but my opponent does swap into a Mewtwo, which is pretty good for us here. So potentially Origin can come back with full health and deal this Mewtwo in the event that I get fainted down. So gonna just go for the Surf here. There's no reason to go for a Rock Wrecker because Mewtwo is pretty glassy, and I think my opponent is gonna shield anyways, and that's really great for me. Here, my opponent actually overfarms a little bit. This is probably a Shadow Ball, but actually my opponent is carrying Ice Beam, so I'm probably gonna get Psycho Cut down here. So I'm gonna go for as much damage as possible. And I'm going to hit the Surf here. My opponent does not throw. He is committed to the farm down to take down this Giratina Origin. So that's fine here. We'll get it as low as possible. And it comes out with just a little sliver of health here before I get Psycho Cut it down. So here, in this situation, instead of waiting the switch timer out, I'm actually going to come in and snipe the Mewtwo here. So we're going to invalidate all of that energy, and we're going to see what my opponent has in the back, and it's actually a Dialga. So this is fantastic for us. We bring in the Melmetal here. The only thing we have to watch out for is the catch, and most Melmetals here in the Zero Shield, they're going to try to throw on 9. But I'm going to let my opponent here throw his move first. This is probably a Draco Meteor. It's not going to KO. But I'm going to overfarm here just to make sure I can KO the Groudon in the back. And my opponent here tries to go for the sack, which is perfect for me because I was anticipating it. So I'll go for the Rock Slide here, knock out this Groudon from very low health, and then I'm going to work up to back-to-back Superpower here. So no problem here. My opponent is not going to be able to reach an Iron Head in time to KO me, and we're going to be able to take our first match with this team. Right there, yep, go for back-to-back. And there you go. Rhyperior did quite a lot of work there in the mid-game against Mewtwo. Even if the Mewtwo had Focus Blast there, using it as a meat shield there to absorb some energy would have allowed our Giratina Origin to come back regardless. Getting into our second match against Anchan by Londo. And we're going to be leading a Giratina Origin into a surprise Pokemon here. So you might be wondering where I got the inspiration from my Obstagoon video, and here we go. This is one of the hardest walls to Giratina Origin, and unfortunately, my entire team is weak to Obstagoon. So I'm going to bring in the Rhyperior here to potentially sacrifice it and try to get some chip damage off, and knowing pretty much at this point that the only way I'm going to eliminate this Obstagoon is to get a Melmetal onto it, and then also double Superpower here to be able to take it out. So I do believe that at the Master League level, a fully maxed out Obstagoon is going to be able to live one Superpower, so somehow have to get shields down and be able to eliminate this Obstagoon so that my Giratina can operate here. And Of course, my opponent brings in the Mewtwo here. I have to let this go, get some value out of my Origin, and it's kind of up to the Melmetal to sweep here in the back. So at this point, it's not looking very good. Although I would say typically in any situation, if I had a regular Master Classic team, I'd probably still be in this amount of trouble. So I'm going to take the damage from the Mewtwo here, and he's got Shadow Ball. So to me, it doesn't matter because either way, this Giratina Origin is going to get hard walled by this Obstagoon, which is coming right back in. And the only hope that I really have here is that Melmetal can find some way, somehow, to be able to sweep this game. And I'm actually going to go for the boost here. Probably a mistake. Probably needed to hang on to that Shadow Ball just in case I needed to combo play. And of course, he's not going to take any damage here, and I'm going to go straight into the Melmetal. So at this point, my opponent probably feels pretty comfortable, and there's really not a whole lot of ways out of the situation. But noticing that my opponent is staying in, I'm actually going to shield this up, and I'm going to have to potentially bait here so I can go for back-to-back superpower, but my opponent is way too smart for that, and as you can see, he's got the Dialga in the back as well. So very intelligent team composition, having the Obstagoon in the front to be able to disrupt all those popular leads in Master Classic, which is exactly what you saw in the video where I used the Ultra League Obstagoon as well. So really well played by my opponent here. Unfortunately, I have to go for double superpower here. There's no reason for my opponent to shield here. The only purpose for this Dialga to come in is actually just to make sure my Melmetal is debuffed. And here, I can land quite a few superpowers, but they're not going to deal nearly enough damage. And I'm waiting for the switch lock to come back up, so I almost have a chance to win here, I think. And if I can reset my debuff, maybe there is going to be a chance, but unfortunately my opponent still has a shield, so I'm going to try to charge up here, try to catch a cross chop. Opponent doesn't fall for it, and this is all but over. And my opponent makes the intelligent play here. He's going to counter my Giratina Origin all the way down and have some energy to throw at this Melmetal. So very well played here. We're going to have a very painful end to this game, but again, opponent making all the right plays here. The only hope that I have here is that he potentially shields the Shadow Ball. Big Dragon Pulse coming his way, and nope, doesn't fall for it. So I'm going to wait for this to play out, but again, hope this trainer made Legend because that is a very spicy pick here, and I'm trying to struggle here because I'm on stream and going for the win, but again, he's not going to have any of it, and yep, we're going to get countered down, and our Melmetal is unfortunately going to be met with a cross chop, and I make the most efficient play there, and I'm finally going to give up. So GG's to my opponent right there. Really cool team composition, and I can't wait to get a Master League Obstagoon. Our third match of the set is against Manaka 3622, and I'm going to be leading Giratina into a Melmetal. So again, this is where you want to see the Melmetal if you want to face it, and you definitely don't want to go into a Melmetal with an energy advantage. So here, my opponent actually stays in. So what it's telling me is that maybe eventually I'm going to have to swap out because there's probably something in the back that is also weak to Giratina Origin form. So I'm going to let him throw some Rock Slides here, but Giratina Origin has a very dominating matchup here. I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball here, and if I can land a Shadow Ball and an Ominous Wind, I should be able to KO this Melmetal. And at this point, seeing him take the Shadow Ball here, I know I'm in a pretty good position here. I need to take probably 2 more Rock Slides in this situation, but I'm going to get to the Ominous Wind first. So if my opponent shields here, I was considering actually sacrificing my Rhyperior to be able to bring out the best counter here, but I'm actually going to mirror with my own Melmetal instead. So usually found in the situation that mirroring with your own Melmetal is actually not a bad play, because they're going to superpower, and that's fine, and they're going to swap out into their counter here. So I'm going to try to make it to the superpower, and I actually see that he's going to switch out, so I'm going to throw the Rock Slide instead. So actually wound up saving this play here, and he brings in the Kyogre trying to catch, but this is okay. And we don't have a great matchup at this level of health, but what I'm going to try to do here is try to get the double superpowers to get this Kyogre as low as possible, farm up with Giratina Origin, and then I'll have a protected Rhyperior to potentially take down the enemy Melmetal later on in the game. So here I'm going to go for superpower, and despite being debuffed, I can make it to a second one just in time. So if my opponent wants to keep this Kyogre, he's definitely going to have to use his second shield, and he does. So going to get Waterfall down here. In my play is to come back in with the Giratina Origin, and I'm going to shield once and commit straight to the farm down. So here I'm going to bring in the Giratina. And as you can see here, we both start to lag here. I'm clicking on the screen, and we got the white Pokeball of Death here. So I'm going to start Shadow Clawing down here, and I actually didn't realize that my opponent hadn't connected back, but I am going to farm this Kyogre down. Maybe this win is an asterisk overall, and maybe not a true win, but the way that this game unfolded, I felt like in the very end that we would have won this game regardless, because he's going to bring in the Dialga and bring in the Melmetal here, and I'm going to shield the first one, of course. This is a potential superpower. And I actually thought that my opponent was out of energy, so I was just going to Mud Slap down. But as it turns out, my opponent has another one. and I have to take the superpower here, right? So if you think about it conceptually, if that Kyogre did reach a Blizzard, I probably would have shielded on Giratina Origin and still come out with that energy. So here, all I have to do here is make it to one charge move, and the Rhyperior or Giratina Origin can handle it in the back. So gonna go for the Rock Wrecker. Great job CMPing on the Dialga right there. It probably wouldn't have mattered. I could have let this go and then Shadow Claw down with Giratina Origin, but just to be safe in this situation, I will go for the Rock Wrecker. It will be resisted by Dialga due to that steel typing, but the ensuing Mud Slaps will be able to take it down. So once again, Rock Wrecker still does quite a bit of damage, but it's mainly about that Mud Slap, and we're going to be able to take this win with Rhyperior closing out. Going up against Jack C2107 in our fourth battle. We're leading Giratina Origin into the Melmetal once again, so great to see, and we definitely don't want this at our backline. So I'm going to start generating some energy here, and I'm expecting my opponent to kind of swap out maybe. So and he actually brings in a Giratina of his own. This is the Giratina altered version, and I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball here. I thought at the time I should have baited, but this actually wound up working out really well for me because my opponent no shields the Shadow Ball, and then I'm going to farm up a couple of extra Shadow Claws and then dip to my Rhyperior. So I'm going to take the Dragon Claw here. Of course, you do not need much health on Giratina Origin and able to beat Melmetal. So I'm going to go straight to my Rhyperior in this case. And Rhyperior at this level of health going to be able to Mud Slap this Giratina altered all the way down. Doesn't matter how thick it is, and I'm going to take as many Dragon Claws as I need to. So I'm going to generate some energy with Rhyperior. This way, even if the Melmetal were to come back, not only are the Mud Slaps going to hurt, but the Surfs are also going to hurt as well. So of course, no need to go for Rock Wrecker against Melmetal. Opponent's going to get off one more Dragon Claw in this particular scenario, and then I'm going to expecting the Melmetal to come back in, right? So we're going to come back in. I'm going to go for the Surf. My opponent CMP's here. So in this particular case, I'm actually okay letting this go because I have energy built up on my Origin already, and this Rhyperior pretty much has done its job, right? It's pretty much, it's taking care of the altered form. We have a protected Melmetal in the back, so we've seen Melmetal and Giratina. So I wonder if something in the back is potentially weak to an enemy Melmetal as well. So I'm going to let this go, and as it turns out, my opponent actually tries to bait with Rock Slide. I wasn't planning on shielding anyways, so now my opponent's in a really, really bad spot. I'm going to go for the Surf here, and if my opponent wants to start investing shields, knowing that Origin is going to come back anyways, then he's going to be in a really bad spot. So I'm going to beat my opponent to the next Surf, and right now we're in a very, very good position because we essentially have a half health Giratina Origin with energy and a Melmetal to take down whatever's coming in, and my opponent has a Togekiss, and guess what? We have the exact answer, a redundant Rock Slide user or Rock type move user, and my opponent's going to concede right there. So GG's. For our final battle of the set, we're going up against Lyotorus. And this time we have a Giratina Origin going up against a Groudon. So going into the first match, knowing now that Groudon wins CMP against Giratina Origin, not going to mess around, going to go for Shadow Ball straight on 7, and this is going to give me a lot better information about what my opponent might do. So this way I can definitely outpace 2 Shadow Balls before he gets the 2 Earthquakes. And of course, I'm expecting my opponent to shield the first one just like the other one did, and now I can go ahead and comfortably shield this Earthquake. No real reason for Groudon to bait in this situation if he's going to stay in. And I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball once again. So this time throwing a little bit beforehand. Now my opponent has a decision to make. So I'm going to see if he decides to use both shields in order to take down this Giratina Origin. And if not, might have to consider a sacrifice. But thankfully, my opponent does use his does not use the shield here. And here I'm going to shield this up once again, and I'm going to commit straight to the Shadow Claw down. So this way, I'm going to have a slightly healthy Giratina Origin, and I'm going to be able to safe swap directly into whatever counter is coming in. So here my opponent gets to a move, and actually if he had baited first with Fire Punch, he would have been able to EQ in this particular scenario, but my opponent brings in a Palkia, and I have to go directly into Melmetal here, right? Can't bring in the Rhyperior because Rhyperior will take super effective damage from those Aqua Tails, and Melmetal has a pretty good matchup here because we're resisting the Dragon Breaths. The Aqua Tails are going to do a good amount of damage, but not going to threaten any KOs, and Draco Meteor, of course, is definitely going to be resisted here. So this is not like the Dialga matchup where you can potentially get a Draco Meteor and you have to go for Superpower. You can just go for Rock Slides in this scenario, and gonna let my opponent throw the second Aqua Tail here. And at this point, I know that I can get to 2 Superpowers before he gets to the next one. So gonna build up to 9 Thunder Shocks here and go straight for the Superpower here. And if my opponent doesn't show this will KO the Palkia. So once the Palkia has been eliminated, expecting the Groudon to come back in potentially, but we'll get a chance to sneak peek at our opponent's third Pokemon. So opponent's going to wait out the switch timer, and it's actually going to be a Giratina Origin. So this is pretty good for me because we've seen Rhyperior do some work previously against Giratina Altered. Both Pokemon here are are pretty tanky, I guess, and Rhyperior with those Mud Slaps, they are going to add up, and of course our Origin has some energy in the back. So here, my opponent's going to throw some Dragon Claws here, and my goal is, because of the scenario that I'm in, I might actually have to bait here, just to be able to get the shield so my Origin is opened up. And great counting by my opponent right there, but I was anticipating the catch, and now actually, because of that extra energy I got from Groudon, I'm just going to go straight for double Rock Wrecker here. And my opponent does correctly call the Rock Wrecker, but this means that my Origin is going to have a very good time in the back. So I'm going to force my opponent to throw as much energy as possible here. I do not care if this Rhyperior goes down, because if my opponent expends his energy, then that means that I'm going to come in with Origin form with almost a Shadow Ball and be able to one-hit KO this Giratina Altered. So I'm going to CMP here on the last move, and I do actually think my opponent actually gave up here, because you go for the Shadow Sneak, it doesn't deal any damage, and this Rock Wrecker is going to be able to take out the Altered from this health. So taking a look at Rhyperior here, still doing some massive work here in the back, being able to close out, and that's going to be a GG, and we're going to go 4-1 in this set using Rhyperior, Melmetal, and Giratina Origin. And claiming our rewards after this set, we're back in the 2900s after taking down to the 2800s, but looks like all these teams that we're trying out are a pretty good fit for the Master Classic meta. So again, Rhyperior proving its worth if you have one available from the February 2020 Community Day, or even the Throwback Community Day in December of last year. I highly recommend that you give it a shot. It's very strong against Dialga, and you saw it taking out quite a few Pokemon with that really strong Rock Wrecker. It's a Blast Burn clone, it does a ton of damage, and I think that Community Day move is completely worth it. So once again, if you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video.